Welcome back to our tutorials on University of Sports International School-Based Assessment for Information Technology. Today we're going to be looking at assigning primary keys in our database tables, as well as creating relationships with our tables. So let's go. We're going to be looking now at creating our primary keys. So I'm going to select my first table here, which is event data table. I'm going to select my design view, and I'm going to go now to my design view. We have 4 fields in this table: athlete ID, event, time run, and position. Now, assigning a primary key is essential. This means that this key represents the most important field in your database. You must take something into consideration. However, a primary key field cannot, and I stress, cannot have duplicate data. Therefore, ID number would be the ideal field to be used as your primary key. This is because no 2 athletes should have the same number. So even if you have John Brown and John Brown is JB01, if you have Judith Bell, then Judith Bell should not be JB01. Judith Bell should be JB perhaps 02. So in this case, the athlete's ID would be the ideal key to use as your primary key. Now, selecting your primary key, assigning rather your primary key is simple. All you need to do is select the field that you want to be your primary key field. And on your toolbar, you will now select primary key, and it will be assigned. This key here in this section here tells you that this field is now your primary key field. You hit your save icon and you are good to go. The next table we're going to be looking at is our athlete data, and we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be going over to our design view, and you'll notice that athlete ID appears in this table. In this table, the athlete ID is the best field also to be used as primary key. So I'm going to select athlete ID, and then I'm going to select primary key. Now, it's not a problem to use the same primary key in 2 different tables. So I'm going to hit save again, and then I'm going to go back to my table view. I want to close this just a little. So I'm going to go to my school data table. Then I'm going to select design view. Now you'll notice that there are a number of different fields in this school data table. There is no athlete data, athlete ID rather, in this table. But we have what we call a school code. And school code would be the ideal field to be used as your primary key, because your school code is not repeated. So even though you may have schools starting with the same letters or the same initial per word, the number that you add must be different. So here I'm going to use my school code as my primary key, and I'm going to set that as my primary key. And again, I'm going to hit save to ensure that my changes are saved. And I'm going to go over to my table data. So now school code has become my primary key field. And that's it for assigning your primary keys. The next thing we want to look at is creating relationships. Relationships help the tables to work better together, because each table has data that is dependent on the next table. For example, in event data, the athlete ID, the event is also, and the time ran is also showing up in your athlete data table. So this allows a link between both tables so that data or records are not duplicated. Good. So we're going to be going over to assigning our relationships. So on our let's go to database tools and relationships so we can select our tables. So here we want the athlete data table, and remember, all you need to do is to select the table and then click on the add button. So I want to add data, athlete data, I want to add event data, and I want to add our school data, and I'm going to close. Now to get our relationships, all we need to do is to find a key, or a field rather, that appears in each of the table and use that to join those two together to get your relationship. Now it is simple. The simplest way to do is put your mouse pointer on the key that you want to use for your relationship, and so I'm going to select athlete ID, because athlete ID appear in our event data table as well. So I'm going to point my mouse, click and select, hold down my mouse, and then I'm going to drag it over, and I'm going to put it, notice I'm pointing on athlete ID here, then I'm going to release my mouse, and this dialog box comes up asking me if I want athlete ID to be joined to athlete ID. And here I simply select create, and here my relationship has been created. Good. Here we have school code. School code appears in our athlete data table. It appears in our school data table as well. So we want to use this to join. We're going to do the same thing. Point, click, hold down your mouse, move over to school code. Make sure that your pointer is on the field that you want to join. You release it. School code is joined to school code, and we select create, and we have our relationship. Great. So we have our relationships. So now you want to save your relationships so that our tables and our queries, when we get to them, can work wonderfully. Okay, so that's it for creating primary keys and creating relationships among your tables.